Hello, everyone. I'm Sasha, and I'm back to entertain you with an inspiring story based on a true event. Let's dive right into the tale. This is a true story about how a group from Jamaica tried to compete in the Olympic bobsled event. Yes, you heard it right. Jamaica, a country without snow, attempting to qualify for a winter sport. But what makes this story unforgettable is their determination, which defied all odds and silenced doubters worldwide. The movie I'm about to share with you is called Cool Runnings, released in 1993. Trust me, you won't regret watching this classic. I hope this story inspires you and leaves a lasting impact. Now, let's get into the plot. The story begins in November 1987 in Jamaica. Our main character is a young man named Derice, a talented sprinter preparing for the Olympic trials. At the time, a local pushcart racing competition was the talk of the town. Derice decided to visit his friend Sanka, a pushcart champion, to see him compete. As the race started, Sanka took an early lead and seemed destined to win. Unfortunately, he collided with another racer, lost control, and crashed into a street vendor's stall. A few days later, it was Derice's turn to prove himself at the 100-meter sprint trials for the Olympics. His wife, Joy, and Sanka were confident he would qualify. The top 4 runners would represent Jamaica in the track and field event at the Seoul Olympics. Among the favorites were Derice and a bald sprinter named Brinner. Another participant, Junior, admired Derice and hoped to qualify alongside him. As the race began, Derice surged ahead, leading the pack. But then disaster struck. Junior tripped and fell, taking down both Derice and Brinner with him. None of them qualified. Determined to get another chance, Derice approached Mr. Barrington, a senior official, and requested a rerun of the trials. However, Mr. Barrington firmly refused, explaining that the chosen representatives had already been decided. Derice was crushed. He had been inspired by his father, a former Olympian who once represented Jamaica. During their conversation, Derice noticed a photo of his father with an American man named Irving, a former Olympic bobsledder. Mr. Barrington revealed that Irving was still in Jamaica, although now he spent most of his time gambling. Hearing this, Derice became curious and decided to track Irving down. Derice approached Sanka with an unusual idea to form Jamaica's first ever bobsled team. At first, Sanka was skeptical, especially after learning that a bobsled is similar to his pushcart but slides on ice instead of wheels. However, their long-standing friendship and Derice's persistence eventually convinced Sanka to join. Together, they sought out Irving, who was listening to a horse race on the radio when they found him. Irving had just lost a lot of money gambling and wasn't in the best mood. Derice asked him to coach their bobsled team, but Irving immediately refused. He argued that there was no snow in Jamaica, making training impossible, and that he had left the sport behind long ago. Not willing to give up, Derice showed Irving the photo of him with his father. He revealed that he was Ben's son and reminded Irving of his theory from 20 years ago. Fast sprinters could make excellent bobsledders. Irving had come to Jamaica back then to recruit Ben for the same reason. Touched by the memory, Irving eventually agreed to coach them. A selection event was held to find 2 more team members. To their surprise, many people showed up. Irving explained the basics of bobsledding and its risks, including high-speed crashes. After watching a crash video, most of the hopefuls fled in fear, leaving Sanka as the only one remaining. Just when it seemed hopeless, Brinner walked in. Despite his rivalry with Derice, he joined the team, motivated by a desire to leave Jamaica and make something of himself. However, they still needed one more team member. To their relief, Junior eventually showed up, completing the team. When Junior joined the team, Brinner was visibly annoyed. It was because of Junior's mistake that Brinner and Derice failed to qualify for the Olympics. But with this being Brinner's only way out of Jamaica, he reluctantly agreed to join the team. Junior, however, had a tough time breaking the news to his father. His father had secured him a job in Miami, set to start at the end of the month. When Junior tried to tell him about becoming a bobsledder, fear overcame him. His father strongly disapproved of the idea, so Junior decided to keep it a secret for the time being. The next day, Irving introduced the team to their homemade bobsled. It was as basic as it could get. Brenner was assigned the first seat, Junior the second, and a heated argument broke out when Irving assigned Senka to handle the brakes. Senka, being the best pushcart driver in Jamaica, felt he should steer the sled. But after hearing Irving explain the driver's immense responsibility, Senka backed down. Their training began, and due to the lack of snow in Jamaica, they used a wheeled bobsled for practice. Irving emphasized that the key to success in bobsledding was the start. If they could push the 300-kilogram sled and reach the sled within 6 seconds, they would be off to a good start. The training was tough. They had to adapt to controlling the sled and improving their speed and coordination. Besides perfecting their pushing skills, they also had to prepare themselves for freezing temperatures. After extensive practice, the team managed to stabilize the sled and achieve the times Irving had set. Meanwhile, Irving had another challenge, convincing Mr. Barrington to fund Jamaica's first bobsled team. Despite Irving's persistence, Mr. Barrington refused, arguing that the team was unprepared and that he wouldn't waste money on a team destined to fail at the Olympics. But DeRice refused to give up. Determined to raise funds on his own, he went from office to office, seeking sponsorships. Most business owners laughed at the idea of a tropical country entering a winter sport. Senka, on the other hand, played music on the streets to collect donations, while Brenner entered arm wrestling contests, winning match after match. Despite their efforts, they only managed to raise $1,000, far short of the $20,000 needed. Then, Junior showed up with a large sum of money, revealing that he had sold his car to help the team. Initially, DeRice hesitated to accept the money. But Junior argued that if it weren't for his mistake at the trials, both DeRice and Brenner would already be at the Olympics. Persuaded, DeRice finally accepted Junior's contribution, appreciating his sacrifice. The problem was, Junior hadn't told his father about selling the car or joining the team. With the money raised, the team flew to Canada. Upon arriving at the airport, they were stunned by the freezing -25°C weather. Irving immediately took them to a sports store to buy proper gear. Later, Irving went to register the team with the Olympic Committee. To qualify, they had to complete a run safely with a maximum time of 1 minute and 2 seconds. While there, Irving ran into some familiar faces: Curtis, his former coach, and Roger and Larry, his former teammates. Curtis and Larry dismissed Irving coldly, still harboring resentment from the past. Only Roger treated him kindly and even offered to help. Roger gave Irving an old bobsled for training, knowing Irving was on a tight budget. But the team still faced a significant challenge. While they could sprint 100 meters in under 10 seconds, they now had to learn to run on ice. Irving took them to an ice skating rink, where they practiced wearing bobsled shoes. One night, DeRice watched the Swiss team train. The Swiss were the favorites to win, and their flawless performance left DeRice feeling discouraged. He knew they had to work much harder. The next day, Irving brought the team to the sled garage. They marveled at the sleek, high-tech sleds, especially one belonging to the Swiss team. But their excitement turned to disappointment when Irving unveiled their own sled, a rusty, battered relic. Only DeRice tried to stay optimistic about it. During their free practice session, they entered the track with their old sled, attracting attention from all the other teams. The room fell silent as everyone stared at them. The German driver, Joseph, mocked them relentlessly, calling them out for being from Jamaica and making derogatory remarks about their skin color. Despite the humiliation, the team stayed focused. That night at the hotel, tensions within the team boiled over. Brenner voiced his dreams of leaving Jamaica and finding success abroad, only to have Senka ridicule him, saying he'd likely end up in a poor neighborhood working as a laborer. Junior stepped in to defend Brenner, citing his own father as an example. Junior explained how his father started with nothing but hard work and eventually built a successful life. The next training session proved disastrous. They struggled with their sled, drawing laughter and jeers from spectators. News of their failure even reached Jamaica. One day, Larry approached DeRice in the garage and warned him about Irving, revealing a dark secret. In 1972, Irving had been caught cheating by adding extra weight to his sled, resulting in his team's gold medal being revoked. Hearing this, DeRice was disheartened but tried to stay focused on their goal. One evening, before heading out, Junior received a telegram from his father in Jamaica. The message was simple but devastating. His father demanded that he return home immediately. Junior felt crushed. Later at the bar, Brenner tried to be a support system for Junior, who was scared of his father's anger. Brenner reminded him that without Junior, they wouldn't have made it to Canada, and now Junior was considering abandoning his team. As they talked, Joseph, the German driver, began mocking Junior again, trying to intimidate him. Brenner stepped in, glaring at Joseph until he backed off. Brenner then took Junior to the restroom, teaching him about pride and courage. Fueled by Brenner's encouragement, Junior finally mustered the confidence to confront Joseph. Unfortunately, Joseph wasn't intimidated, and things quickly escalated. Brenner intervened, leading to a full-blown brawl that wrecked the bar. The chaos prompted a furious response from Irving. He reminded the team that their presence wasn't welcomed by other nations, and even people he knew resented him. Irving demanded they behave professionally and focus if they wanted to qualify for the Olympics. The next morning, the four teammates enthusiastically woke Irving up to begin training. Their focus sharpened, and they pushed themselves harder to improve their strength and stability. Through sheer determination, they began addressing their weaknesses. When the day of qualification finally arrived, Irving met with the three judges, only to find one of them replaced by Curtis, his former coach, who still held a grudge against him. To make matters worse, the qualifying time was lowered from 1 minute and 2 seconds to exactly 1 minute. In the locker room, Irving presented the team with uniforms inspired by the Jamaican flag. He wished them the best of luck as they stepped onto the track. As the sled was pushed forward, DeRice expertly guided them through each turn, their hard work and practice paying off. They achieved a time under 1 minute, shocking everyone, including Curtis. Having qualified for the Olympics, the team celebrated by painting their sled, giving it a sleek look and naming it Cool Runnings. But their joy was short-lived. They received a letter stating they had been disqualified. Irving, outraged, stormed into the committee's office. The officials had conveniently changed the rules, stating that only countries with prior international bobsled experience could qualify. Irving accused them of making this up and called out one official for being racist toward Jamaicans. He also confronted Curtis directly, apologizing for his mistake 16 years ago when he cheated, disgracing himself, his team, and his country. The confrontation led to a reversal of the disqualification, and the Jamaican team proudly carried their flag during the Olympic opening ceremony. The team moved into their new quarters as official Olympic participants. That night, Junior's father made an uninvited appearance, having traveled all the way to Canada to demand Junior return home. This time, Junior stood his ground. With newfound courage, he told his father what he truly wanted, to be with his team. The Olympic bobsled competition began the next day. The event spanned 3 days, with each country aiming for the best times to secure gold. The Swiss and German teams were clear favorites, while the Jamaicans were seen as the underdogs. For Jamaica, even qualifying for the Olympics was already a victory. DeRice, however, was too focused on emulating the Swiss team, even counting in German. Their first run was a disappointment, landing them in last place. Irving, frustrated, reminded them there was no time to be nervous. They had to identify their own problems. Later, the team gathered to discuss their mistakes. DeRice's obsession with the Swiss team annoyed everyone. Even Senka, usually the joker, turned serious, reminding them of who they were and where they came from. They realized they needed to embrace their identity as Jamaicans. The next day, the team arrived at the track with a renewed sense of pride. Singing and dancing, they captured everyone's attention. This was their second chance to prove themselves, and they did just that, improving their time and climbing to 12th place. Back home, their families and fellow Jamaicans cheered, filled with hope and excitement. That night, DeRice studied the circuit's turns intensely. Irving approached him, inviting him to dinner, but DeRice declined, determined to prepare. Before leaving, DeRice asked Irving why he had cheated in his final race. Irving confessed that he became consumed by the need to win, letting greed and desperation drive his actions. He admitted it was a mistake that had cost him everything. On the third and final day of competition, the atmosphere was electric. Mr. Barrington, Jr.'s father, joined the watch party back in Jamaica, showing his support for the team. This was the moment of truth. The Jamaicans launched Cool Runnings with a near-perfect start. Each turn was smooth, and the crowd roared with excitement as commentators predicted a record-breaking run. But disaster struck. The sled, an old and worn-out model, malfunctioned. A loose bolt caused the sled to crash. Miraculously, the team was unharmed, but they were devastated. The finish line was just within sight. DeRice, as the captain, made a bold decision. They would carry Cool Runnings to the finish line. Despite the sled's 300-kilogram weight and their own exhaustion, they lifted it together, driven by their unbreakable spirit. The crowd erupted in applause, cheering them on as they reached the finish line. Although they didn't win a medal, the team returned to Jamaica as heroes. For years later, they returned to the Olympics, competing as equals. They may not have claimed a medal, but they had taught the world an invaluable lesson. It's not about speed or medals. It's about never giving up and crossing the finish line. Victory isn't measured by how many medals you win. It's about achieving your goals and doing your best for your country. That's it for today's story. Remember to always strive to be the best version of yourself. Stay tuned for more, and never get tired of being a good person. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll always cherish you, my dear subscribers. Love you all.